looking at how to change direct speech to indirect speech for information questions. Before we start, let's talk about clauses, and especially let's talk about wh-noun clauses. So what is a clause? Clauses are like mini sentences. They're not sentences, but they occur in sentences. They usually have a subject and a predicate, that is a verb plus an object. And like I mentioned before, they are usually occurring inside sentences. They occur inside sentences. Let's look at an example of a clause. Dogs eat meat and bones. This, of course, is not a sentence. We don't have a capital D and we don't have a period. Here, the subject is dogs, the verb is eat, and the object is meat and bones. Moving forward now, let's talk about wh-noun clauses. wh-noun clauses function like nouns in a sentence. Example, people ask something. Here, something is a noun. I can replace something with the wh-noun clause. People ask why I am so red. Here, the wh-noun clause is why I am so red. You can see that I replaced something with the wh-noun clause, and you can see how wh-noun clause functions like a noun. People ask something. What is that something they ask? People ask why I am so red. Why I am so red replaces the noun something. Wh-noun clauses have a main clause. Here, the main clause is people ask. And lastly, but most importantly, noun clauses usually begin with a WH word. Here, the WH word is why. The other 6 WH words are why, where, when, who, what, and how. Okay, moving forward now, let's look at WH-noun clauses a little more deeply. WH-noun clauses are the objects of a main verb and a main clause. Here, the main verb is ask. Okay, you can see how why I am so red is the object of ask. Okay, usually the main verb is a reporting verb, such as say, state, tell, think, agree, suggest, ask, argue, question, and request. Okay, these are reporting verbs. They state what someone has said. WH-noun clauses have a subject and a verb. Here, the subject is I, the verb is am. Let's move forward now. Let's talk about direct speech. Okay, so direct speech is when we write down the exact thing someone said before. This is usually used when telling a narrative story or in a newspaper. For example, what is the homework? Well, the homework, he might have asked yesterday, what is the homework? And today you ask me, what did he ask yesterday? So I would say, he asked, what is the homework? Okay, and I would write this down in a note. Okay, let's look at the form of direct speech, WH questions. So the reporting verb, say, ask, think. They usually have a reporting verb. Here it's asked. They have quotation marks. You can see them here. They have punctuation inside the quotation marks. So here's the question mark. Question mark occurs inside the quotation marks. And a capital is usually inside the quotation marks, and the comma usually occurs before the quotation marks, or more exactly after the reporting verb. Let's talk about indirect speech questions. Indirect speech is when we write down what someone said, but not as a quote, a direct quote, word for word, direct quote. This is usually used in academic essays and scholarly articles and when speaking. Example, okay, again, yesterday he asked, what is the homework? And today you ask me, hey, what did he ask yesterday? So I would tell you today, he asked what the homework was. Okay, so you can see it's not a direct quote. There are no quotation marks. So indirect speech usually has a reporting verb, such as say, ask, think, agree. Here it's asked. Indirect speech usually has a backshifted auxiliary or backshifted modal or backshifted be verb, and this usually is moved after the subject. So is, was. Okay, the reported speech is inside a WH-noun clause. Here, what the homework was. Let's talk now about how to change a direct information question into a indirect information question. So, to change direct speech in a direct speech question into an indirect speech question, we must 1. Remove the comma. 2. Remove the capital, so no capital W but little w. Remove the quotation marks, no quotation marks. Remove the question mark, no question mark. And we have to delete the did auxiliary, and put the tense back into the verb. So no did, and instead of leave, we say left. And that we end up with, he asked why you left. Okay, moving forward, let's look at another example. Again, once again, we remove the comma. We remove the capital. We remove the quotation marks. We remove the question mark. We change the pronoun, if necessary. He asked when I can swim. When can I swim? Here, I is he, so we have to change I to he. And we move the can modal and backshift the modal. So instead, we don't want it in front of the subject, we want it after the subject. So, and we want to backshift the can to could. And we're left with, he asked when he could swim. Okay, let's look at another example. Again, we remove the comma, remove the capital, remove the quotation marks, remove the question mark, backshift the auxiliary, okay, and move it after the verb, not before, but after. So not where are you, but where you were. And we're left with this. He asked where you were going. So a quick summary. Remember that direct speech is when we write down the exact thing someone said before, and this is usually used when telling a narrative or in newspaper articles. So he asked, what is a homework? Indirect speech is when we write down what someone said or asked, but not as a direct quote, not as a direct word-for-word quote. This is usually used in academic essays, scholarly articles, and when speaking, especially when speaking. He asked what the homework was. Lastly, to change direct speech to indirect speech, we must delete the comma, remove the capital, change the pronoun if necessary, where can I, instead where can he, remove the quotation marks, okay, backshift, that is push the auxiliary or modal to the past, and move the modal after the subject. So not can I, but he could. And lastly, remove the question mark. Well, and we're left with, he asked when he could swim. And we're left with, this is what we're left with, okay? I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. Your thoughts, questions, or concerns, please email me, and thank you for watching.